We have a remarkable story to tell. It's a story about growth and service and tradition. It's a story basically, though, about people.
This story of people begins in Ireland and with the effects of the Great Potato Famine of 1845 that ravaged the land. Over 2 million Irish perished, nearly a third of its population. Those who were able to find a means emigrated, primarily to the United States. Among the courageous was Thomas Haverty, who in 1848 left his wife and children in Ireland to seek a better future in a country that was bursting with energy and promise. Thomas Haverty arrived in New Orleans in August of 1848 and secured work with the railroads. Thomas worked on the railroad line between Chattanooga and Shelby, Tennessee, eventually making his way to Atlanta, at that time a town of about 2,500. In 1856, 8 years after arriving in New Orleans, he had saved enough money to send for his family. In 1858, Margaret Haverty gave birth to James Joseph on October 30th in Newnan, Georgia, where the family resided before moving to Atlanta. J.J., as he came to be known, was 6 years old when Sherman's troops burned Atlanta during the Civil War.
When Sherman came through, my grandfather was about 5 or 6 years old, and he told the story about them coming to Atlanta. He said they came to the house, they were very friendly, but they burned down the house. He said they put newspapers under the stairwell and burned down the house. And they were supposed to evacuate, but they wouldn't. They stayed here and rebuilt. And my grandfather, as he grew up, he remembered that his older sisters were attractive, and the Yankees would come to take his older sisters out, and his father was furious about it.
At 14, J.J. went to work for John Ryan and Company, a rudimentary department store, as a cash boy. Later, he worked as the manager of the carpet department for M. Rich & Sons, which became Rich's department store. In 1885, J.J. opened a furniture store with his older brother Michael. Atlanta had grown to more than 40,000 people and was beginning to overcome the military and political scars of conflict and Reconstruction. Atlanta was alive, and J.J. sensed it. With $600 in savings and a $600 loan, he rented a 25 by 75-foot store at 117 Hunter Street. But J.J., exercising caution, chose to continue working in the daytime at Rich's, while his brother Michael manned the store. Business gradually improved, and the Haverty store outgrew its building in less than 3 years. J.J. left Rich's, and a new Haverty store was opened on nearby Whitehall Street. In those early days of limited transportation, reaching out to the customers was essential. Agents made their rounds by horse and buggy, making sales by the canvassing of homes. These traveling salesmen carried photographs of the latest styles and furnishings and took the orders. Selling furniture on time was a key to the firm's success. Practically all sales were on the installment plan, and the salesmen returned to make the collections. It was a good plan for building a close customer relationship.
Collections and sales in the early days were by what he called canvassers. That is, the salesman who would take a truck and go to the mill towns, and he would go from house to house to the mill towns, and he had samples on his trucks, and he would make a sale to the housewife, have it delivered. There would be a down payment, and he would work out terms, and money was pretty hard to get. And it was quite normal, particularly in mill towns, on Friday, which was payday, while the collector would go to the gate of the factory, because he knew that the workers had been paid that day and they'd be coming out the gate with the payday in their pocket. So he would catch them. Bill, good to see you. Now don't forget me, you owe me $5. I'm ready.
From the very beginning, J.J. traveled constantly, staying in touch with the family by mail. About 1907, he wrote daughter Margaret from Dallas.
A comparatively new country where numbers of new folks are moving. I often see whole families in wagons moving from one part of the state to some other part. A number of people live in tents on account of the scarcity of homes.
J.J. was observant. He knew that the development of homes meant a growing need for furniture. By 1908, what had been an innovation only a few years ago was becoming a common sight and would change the face of the nation. The automobile had arrived. With it, the development of suburbs became more feasible. The new century held great promise, despite mutterings of war and revolution abroad. J.J. and his son Clarence kept Haverty Furniture moving with the times.
When the gasoline trucks came out, we were among the first to have the gasoline trucks. And my father told me it was really traumatic when they gave up their dependable horses and wagons and the stables downtown and went to these not very dependable new gasoline trucks. He said it was, you gave up these horses, you'd known them for years, and you liked the horses and you wanted to take care of them, but there was time to move.
A new era of expansion was soon underway. New stores opened in Charleston, Birmingham, and Columbia. The process was simple. J.J. would buy into an existing business, taking a majority interest, and retain the minority partner as the operating manager. Or he would lease a building and find a manager who would become a partner. J.J. reminisced late in life.
I'm proudest of the system established early in my career, which provided every homemaker with an opportunity to obtain beautiful furniture, to provide his family with more pleasant surroundings than he could otherwise afford. This was by selling furniture on the installment plan.
J.J. also had a deep passion for art that was instilled in him at an early age.
When he graduated from school, he had a chance to go up to the Columbia Exposition. And he got a job there as night watchman in the art gallery of the Columbia Exposition. And spending time there, he got interested in art. And he'd go around at night, because he's the only one there, turn the lights and study these paintings, and he got interested in it. And when he was older and had a little money after the sale of the initial sale of the stock, he began buying paintings. And he became a very good art collector. And he probably had the best collection in the South. He had the habit of opening his house on Sunday afternoon to show his art. And it was the Art Museum of the South. People would stop by and he'd serve tea and coffee and show his art.
In fact, J.J.'s art collection was a founding donation of the High Museum, which opened in 1926 when the home of Nettie High was deeded to the Atlanta Art Association. Many of the paintings and sculptures are still on display.
J.J. Haverty is my grandfather. He had a home at that time on Peachtree Road where the Piedmont Hospital stands now. I would go up there and visit occasionally. He would have the managers out there after a managers meeting. The managers would meet out there, and he liked to have a little bourbon at night, but he had a philosophy that you never drank before dark, which is a good, healthy philosophy. So when the manager would get out there for a managers meeting, it'd be about 4 o'clock, he'd say, "Joe, close the doors. Let's have a little darkness in here." So he could pour a drink. He was that kind of a guy, delightful.
During the 1920s, Clarence Haverty led the company through times of great growth and dire difficulties. At the close of the decade, Clarence took the company public.
In 1929, that was a boom year. Market was big, it was a boom year, everything was going great. My father had been on the board of Nunley Candy Company, and he had seen Nunley go public, and the Nunley people come out with a nice return for their company going public, and he thought that'd be a great idea. So he talked to his father, into putting the Haverty Furniture Company stores on the market. Each was an independent corporation owned by the majority owner was J.J. Haverty. Clarence Haverty owned some, and the local manager was usually an owner. And they went on the market, and I forget the price, but it was about $25.50 a share. And they sold the stock and got their money, paid off the debt, paid off the minority partners, and gave them new stock in the new corporation, took the old independent corporations up. And J.J. came out pretty well. And the stock market crashed in 1929. They'd paid out of debt. They were all right. And that allowed them to get through the Depression, because they had about 3 or 4 years that were lost years, and would have been, I'm not sure they would have made it without that financial background that they'd gotten on the market. So they sold at exactly the right time.